Okay, and here we go. It's Mark here from Talk Beliefs, and as always, Neil from Reason Now. And you look quite happy. You're beaming, Neil. I mean, what's going on? What are you reading about?
Yeah, we've got a couple of quick wins for Science and Reason this week that we just want to talk about before we get into the stories. Italy have banned unvaccinated students from preschools.
Wow, that's really great.
That is a huge, huge step.
Yeah, so this is a new policy that's been introduced that bans children under 6 from attending school if they are unvaccinated, which you'd never get in certain parts of the world, would you?
No. And they're going to impose fines of up to €500 on parents of older unvaccinated kids.
Well, that's really good. That's the way to do it, really. And there are anti-vaxxers in Italy, apparently, and they protested.
Yeah, they are actually in the coalition government, so they have been trying to stop this, obviously, but no, this is the way we need to go, unfortunately, because it's not a free speech issue. It's not a free speech issue for the parents. They are literally causing harm on their kids and other people, and I'm afraid in some circumstances the state has to take control.
Of course, they say that they're informed, but they're not informed. They're just looking at conspiracy sites and hearing what the whispers are going down at the pub, and this is not evidence that you can point to, is it?
No.
Especially in a measles outbreak, which just happened recently in Italy.
Yes. What happened was they brought this law in. It was passed in 2017, but it was a bit convoluted that you needed to doctor's notes and all this stuff. But they've just confirmed it now. People can't get out of it. And the fact of the matter is, since this has gone in, vaccination rates in Italy have already started to rise since this law was being talked about in their parliament. So
despite a slightly dodgy right-wing-ish government, they're doing rather well.
On this, maybe a right-wing government in America could listen.
Are you listening, America? Yeah, I know we've got a lot of listeners in America, so hopefully. Well, there's also something which I saw on the humanist website, humanism.org UK.
Yep, here in the UK, obviously we've had organ donation for a long, long time, but we've had a system where you have to register and you have to get a little card that you carry around with you saying, I'm an organ donor, in case you are unfortunate enough
Yes, I'm okay with that, basically.
Have an accident or something, I'm okay for people to use my organs. But we are changing our system to an opt-in system.
This is radical, isn't it?
This is big, actually, because now you don't need to carry one of these cards around with you. If you turn up at hospital, if you haven't opted out on the system saying, I do not want to be a donor, you will be treated as a donor, and you could have your organs taken away from you.
Wow, so a deceased person will be assumed to have consented to organ donation, unless you opt out. Now, a lot of people are going to be annoyed with that, you know, but I think this is the best thing for humanity, don't you?
Well, it's going to save hundreds and hundreds of lives a year, for one, because there's so many people on the donor list die just waiting.
And when you're dead, you're dead. I mean, do you really worried about where your kidney and liver goes when you're 6 feet under?
Not myself personally, no. I hope they take as much as possible.
Yeah.
But we are going to have some of our evangelical friends unhappy.
Yes.
If they find out relatives haven't opted out. I mean, one of the reasons this helps as well is because it's very difficult for doctors in those really difficult times to then have to go up to approach the family and say, do you mind if we take your loved one's organs?
Yeah, this streamlines the process.
Yeah.
And of course there are going to be protests, as you say, from not just evangelicals, but lots of people who don't like this idea, like, who do you think you are taking my organs, you know, even though I'm dead.
Yeah.
So we'll wait to see if this kicks off. I hope it doesn't. But
I hope it doesn't. But the thing is, even us making people aware of it, whether you would want to do it or not, now at least now you're aware, and therefore you can opt out.
Yeah.
If you want to opt out. So I think that's the important thing, is getting the message out to people, so those who do want to opt out are able to do it. But it's great there's going to be more organs available for the donation.
Yeah, and there's something else which has happened we're going to just mention briefly, also along the same lines of health, and that's to do with our friend Amazon.
Yes, so we're not fans of dangerous bullshit cures for anything on this program, but Amazon are pulling books that are offering cures for autism.
So they should.
Because it's not something you can cure.
Because, I mean, you can get literally thousands of books. You can write a book, you can make your own ebook and upload it to Amazon easily. And there's quite a few out there which are reporting, dangerous therapies being promoted in titles being sold through the site. And so one of them is this idea of there's a cure for autism that Wired magazine they called it out.
Yeah, it's the bleach cure, isn't it, or something like that?
Yes. It advocates dosing autistic children with a bleach-like substance, chlorine dioxide. And really?
It really does, and there's been stories of people who didn't know where to get this stuff, so literally been making their kids drink actual bleach and doing untold damage to their insides. How could anybody
advocate that? I mean, was this peer-reviewed?
No. The laws are starting to make big companies worried that they're going to be held responsible for what's sold on their platforms.
Yeah.
So that's the really good news. Good news here. And again, this needs dealing with. It's not a free speech issue. You are not allowed to deliberately tell people to cause damage to themselves. That isn't free speech. You should be held responsible for those actions. So same as Facebook pulling hate videos and the like, this is another big win.
Yeah, it is. So we've got a lot there. Excellent. So we are going to move on to the show now. And before we begin, I just want to say I have an interview coming up on Talk Beliefs, a video interview. And now this is with Sam Young, who is the director of Protect LDS Children. Now, LDS is Latter-day Saints, which is the Mormon church. And you might remember on a previous show, I think it was last week's show, we talked about the harm caused by these so-called worthiness interviews, which Mormon kids have to go through when their church leader, called a bishop, pulls them into the office for a one-on-one. This is apparently okay with the parents, and talks to them about sexual matters. Do you masturbate? How do you masturbate? And worse. Sam Young was a bishop for a while, and he decided, I'm not going to let this happen anymore. His own kids, it happened to them. And now he's campaigning against it. And of course, the church excommunicated him for it, because he was bad-mouthing the church as far as they were concerned.
Where in reality, he's protecting children.
Yeah, so I just thought it'd be interesting to play a little clip from that now. And you can look out for the entire interview. It's a video interview coming up on Talk Beliefs.
Well, most kids are not going to want to tell their parents anyway, because it's so darn embarrassing.
Well, yeah.
Bishops that don't want the child to talk, they'll say something like, and by the way, all this is private, just between you and me. I will not be sharing this anywhere. This is just between you and me. And so it kind of gets the kid to be looking at, I'm not going to talk about it anywhere because the bishop doesn't want me to. You don't do that. Okay, so what did the changes they make? They did not address one whit about the sexual explicit questions. So all of those questions are still fair game for whatever bishop wants to delve into those. Now, what about the one-on-one interviews? This is where they made a change. They said this. They changed the policy to read this, like this. If the child desires, the leader may allow another adult to be in the room. Well, that's a significant change because it does send the signal that it's okay to have more than one person in that room. The idiotic part of this policy is that we're putting it on the child to protect themselves.
Okay, we're going to move on now. And our first story is from thedigitalspy.com. First look at Doctor Who's Matt Smith playing cult leader Charles Manson in a new thriller, Charlie Says. And I'm looking forward to this because I must admit I don't know that much about Charles Manson. He was a cult leader, and as you pointed out before the show, he wasn't a religious cult leader, but he had a lot of people following him. Former Doctor Who star Matt Smith physically transforms into one of the most notorious cult leaders of all time. The 36-year-old portrays Charles Manson, leader of the murderous Manson family, in an upcoming thriller from American Psycho director Mary Harron about the infamous 1969 killing. Smith's version of Manson is shown in flashbacks as the so-called Manson girls share their stories from prison with criminology student and human rights advocate Carleen Faith. We know her from The Walking Dead, who she plays Merritt Weaver. It is through her analysis of the horrifying killings that Carleen begins to question whether the Manson girls were truly willing perpetrators or if they were victims of Manson as well. So this is going to be really cool to watch this because when you think of Charles Manson, I mean, I just thought he must have been a guy who went around like, Hannibal Lecter, just killing people, keeping them in basements and that sort of. But he just commanded a bunch of followers to go do his bidding.
Yeah, it was so long ago. There's going to be a lot of people probably don't even know who he is. But he basically brainwashed people into doing.
Yeah, another charismatic leader. Yeah.
Yeah, they got so wrapped up in his cult that he just could tell them to do anything and they would do it because they believed that what he was telling needed to be done.
And unfortunately this keeps happening, and we see it now with the Jesus guy in Siberia and A.J. Miller in Australia and the guy in South America. There's so many of them. And basically they're just really good speakers, and they're charismatic and they're mesmerizing, and it doesn't matter what they look like. Charles Manson was definitely not a handsome guy. But he had all these women, falling at his feet and doing his bidding, which unfortunately ended up with 9 murders in 1969. But of course, he was eventually convicted, I think, in 1971. But the strange thing, did you hear what Manson got into when he was in jail?
Yes, he got into Scientology.
Yes, and he actually identified as a Scientologist after studying it for a while, and he even did the infamous auditing, which is when you hold the cans, kind of like a lie detector. Do you recall what his conclusion was?
Well, to paraphrase, he thought it was batshit crazy.
Yes, that's right. Cult leader Charles Manson gave up on Scientology because he thought it was too crazy. Make of that what you will. Well, he died in just recently in 2017 in California State Prison, age 83. So I guess it stands to reason they're now going to make a bunch of films about him. And I think Matt Smith will do a good job. It kind of they've made him look quite a bit like him with the massive hair and the beard, that sort of hippie look he had. So the film, Charlie says, is currently slated to hit US cinemas in May 10th, but a UK release hasn't been announced yet, so we don't know. It's going to be in cinemas, they're going to be on TV, we're not quite sure. But speaking of Scientology, I don't know if you saw this from cheatsheet.com, why Jennifer Lopez refused to join Scientology.
Would it be because she thought it was batshit crazy too?
It's along those lines, yes, absolutely. And she is great friends with Leah Remini. I fully expect to see Jennifer Lopez on Leah Remini's show, Scientology and the Aftermath, perhaps in season, what are we up to now? It'll be season 4, I guess, or the rest of season 3 if they ever bring it back. Leah Remini and Jennifer Lopez have been good friends for many years. In the beginning of their friendship, Remini was still a Scientologist, and then of course she left. Leah Remini said that Jennifer Lopez refused because she doesn't agree with Scientology's disconnection policy, and more on that later. Jennifer's father was a very indoctrinated Scientologist, so it sort of stands to reason a little bit that perhaps the daughter would then at least look into it, and perhaps even be expected to go into it. Yeah, she did look into it, applied, I'm assuming, a bit of critical thinking, and she disagreed with it because of the disconnection policy, which is a bit like what other cults do. It's basically if you do something they don't like, if you speak out against the cult, you are cut off completely. And we know lots of groups that do that, don't we?
Yes. That's interesting, isn't it? Because, yeah, if her father was one, you'd have thought it would have been an easy step for her to take to go into it. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people go into these religions never looking into them themselves. Caught up in them before they find out about things like the disconnection policy.
It can be a family thing. Leah Remini's mother was in it and kind of got the kids into it, but I think the mother has left as well. And I think also Chris Shelton, who I interviewed on this channel, I think his parents were already in it. I don't know if they still are. Yeah, disconnection. That is, people who leave Scientology are basically labeled what they call SPs, or suppressive persons, which means they're out to destroy Scientology and just destroy them, turn your back on them.
I don't think you're trying to deliberately destroy Scientology just by informing people what they actually do.
No, but L. Ron Hubbard said that's exactly what it is. They're trying to destroy you, so you destroy them first. I think they call that the fair game policy. So good on Jennifer Lopez. Our next story is from iNews Co. UK. Pastor who advocates gay conversion therapy awarded MBE.
What the?
At Buckingham Palace in the New Year honors list. Just for our American listeners or anyone else, an MBE is an award, isn't it?
Yeah, every year the government and the Queen hand out a load of awards to people they think have done good things. So I want to hear this story. I want to know more.
Pastor Amuba has been involved in a string of anti-LGBTQ plus campaigns over the course of his career, including a failed attempt to stop anti-discrimination legislation against gay people in 2006. The legislation tackled discrimination, banning hotels from refusing bookings from same-sex couples. He also campaigned against same-sex marriage, of course, saying equal unions devalue the meaning of marriage itself. Yeah, right. The pastor's organization, Christian Concern, always be aware. Always be wary, Neil, when you have the word concern in the title of it. It's like, we're concerned that you're not like us. Have rallied against LGBTQ plus equality and identities since they were first formed in 2004. The evangelical group were banned from screening a documentary advocating for gay conversion therapy at a branch of View Cinemas in London in 2018. We did a piece on this, didn't we?
Yeah. Sounds like a lovely chap.
Yeah, I've never seen this documentary, The Voices of the Silence, but apparently it showcased testimonies from people who claimed to be ex-gay after they were converted through religious therapy. And we've tackled this subject a lot because it's still around and it shouldn't be. People just come out basically screwed up. You know, nothing even remotely as ex-gay happens after they are pushed out the door.
And it often turns into torture.
Yep.
It often turns into psychological torture, physical torture. How on earth has this guy been given a... I mean, he's done nothing for the community. When I say community, I mean wider community. I just mean...
He means the community he wants to be pervasive in the world.
Yes.
Although several ministers have claimed they intend to ban gay conversion therapy, it is still legal in the UK. Can you believe that, Neil?
It won't be much longer. We're winning this fight.
Yes, that's happening. Winning this fight. I can see it going.
Yeah, we will definitely win this fight.
But I'm surprised in 2019, as it is now, I have to keep reminding myself that it still does actually exist.
The wheels of justice turn slowly in this country.
Yes, on some things more than others. As well as screening documentaries advocating for gay conversion therapy, Christian Concern have fought against equal marriage, anti-discrimination laws, which protect LGBT plus people and trans people from being protected through a revision to the Gender Recognition Act. The pastor thanked the organization in his acceptance statement, stating, "I strive daily in life to be a person of modest but excellent," that is MBE, ha ha ha. And that's what the award means to me. The Queen honoring me in this way simply humbles me and encourages me to remain relentless in my pursuit of modesty but excellence. That isn't what MBE stands for, and he's not being modest, is he?
No.
If you have to say that you're modest, then you're not being modest.
No, but he does say, he lets it out at the end of it, doesn't he? Modesty. He cares about modesty, which basically to him means anything that goes against his toxic masculinity, I guess.
Yeah, and fundamentalism.
Yeah. What on earth are they doing, letting the Queen stand in front of this guy and give him a bloody medal? It's...
Don't tell me she didn't know about...
She would... Well,
all his discrimination.
I doubt it. They give them. There's so many of these medals they give out, but they're meant to look into people.
She was probably advised that this is called Christian Concern. You better not turn them away.
Yeah. It
would have been, I think, a very big brownie point for the Queen if she had said, I've decided not to because of the discrimination and hate that he has shown.
Yeah, and unfortunately, in the eyes of people like him, she's legitimising his campaign.
That's true. That's very true. That's exactly right.
Oh, dearie me.
And you can tell from his smug sort of statement at the end there that it's exactly what he takes it as.
Yeah, and unfortunately, these are lifelong awards, and you can't take it back off the bigot.
Yeah.
But, oh dear, someone in government has majorly slipped up here. Or one of the people in charge of giving out these awards may herself have similar feelings.
That's true. That often happens.
Maybe they tried to slip it through without people noticing.
I wonder how this is going to play out. Will it just fall under the radar, or will somebody bring something up? And maybe in the future, the Queen, or whoever the Queen's successor will be, will refuse to give out medals to people like this.
I think this will be
and
kept
organizations
quiet.
like this.
This will be kept quiet. Apart from in the organisation, in the churches, they will be loving this. This will be a big ego boost to them, and they will be saying, "See, we got the royal family on our side."
I am surprised that this has happened, actually.
Yeah, it's wrong on so many levels.
Yeah, but when I think of that, I go back to the top of the show and think of all the wins that have happened.
Yes,
for a reason,
and they are much bigger than one man getting a little medal.
That's very true.
To boost his ego.
That's very true. And on that note, I will see you here next week.